everyone. My name is Angie Viscianen, and I am the founder of Leg Up Legal. We provide a mentoring platform that connects prospective law students to lawyers for mentoring so they can learn more about the legal profession before they decide if law school is right for them. And we started doing these Zoom meetups to connect all the people in our community, lawyers and pre-law students. And then we started inviting current law students and everyone else in the legal profession. So please feel free to invite your friends. We want everybody to be able to interact and connect with each other and have opportunities to network during these times of social distancing. And so we've been bringing in lawyers every week to talk to you guys about different topics that might help you in your legal career. And I'm super excited this week to introduce Kathrin Hashemi, and she's going to talk to you today about legal tech and some aspects of the law that you might not be aware of. So Kathrin, I'll let you take it away.
Thanks so much, Angie. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with your Zoom meetup group today. And I just wanted to say, I really feel like this is such an important thing that you're doing to connect mentors and mentees together, especially in the legal field, where I feel like there's so much information that can get shared from one another. Before I dive into the content today, I really wanted to set the stage of why this topic matters. And from talking with Angie, I know there's a few different groups on the line today. We have pre-law students, current law school students, and then also some attorneys on the line. And so to the current law school students and the current attorneys, I just want to, I'd like for you all to take away the increasing importance of managing data, why it matters, and how it can help you in litigation. For the pre-law students, I hope you take away similar things, but also, if you're interested in law, but not sure you want to be an attorney, I really hope that you learn about other opportunities that exist, because I myself certainly did not have this vantage point of my career path in my early years, and I'm so grateful that I ended up finding it. So to dive right in and give you all a sense of my background, I'll start off by sharing that I am not an attorney, but I work in the legal field. So I studied at Johns Hopkins University for my undergrad. I really didn't have a sense of exactly what major I wanted to pursue. I evaluated a bunch of different majors starting out, in my early years. I thought maybe I wanted to be a pre-med student, and then that fell through. I didn't enjoy that and moved on to computer science. And I enjoyed computer science, but it wasn't exactly the right fit for me. And so I moved on to public health studies, which I found that I really enjoyed. I also ended up doing an entrepreneurship and management minor, and that was really a Hopkins business minor at that point of time. At the same point, I also had, throughout my years, had found law and litigation really interesting. I was fascinated that you could, learn so much about people and companies, and even though parties come in with a difference of opinion, you really get to learn about them on a deeper level. So from all of that, how did I end up at KCIC and in the legal field? I'll boil it down to honestly 50% luck and 50% seeking out opportunities presented to me. Hopkins had this career services department where they would generate emails every single week of companies that were on campus recruiting. And I made sure every single week to read through them and look at companies that maybe I didn't even consider. Because, Angie and I were talking the other week, and we were discussing how, there's so many different career opportunities out there. If you are interested in law, that doesn't mean you have to be an attorney. If you want to be an attorney, that's great, but there's just so many different things you can specialize in. And I think, being able to look at those job listings and just see other opportunities out there were really helpful for me. And at the end of the day, I realized probably more in the aftermath that so many of the skills that I learned in my undergraduate helped me at KCIC, whether that was, from my computer science major. I learned a lot of basics and foundations in understanding how, technology works and databases work and various aspects of coding. And then even in my public health studies, we were discussing huge complex problems and learning how to problem solve and think through things and have, discussions to get to a greater good. And so I took that and then also my interest in law and found that all of those really fit very well at KCIC. So explaining to you all a little bit about KCIC and the work that we do, we're a legal tech consulting firm that helps companies manage their liabilities. And so many of our clients are defendants in the tort system, but also companies with large data problems that need solutions. So our clients may be, similar to if you're walking down the aisles of Home Depot, if you look at the shelves, lots of our clients may be represented there. We work with clients that have product liabilities, environmental liabilities, ones that have large amounts of insurance, where they're trying to figure out how much insurance they actually have available to them, what it'll exactly cover. We also do forecasts for our clients to help them, project certain things like costs or filings out into the future. And then also just there are, many other custom solutions that we've done with our clients. For example, I'll talk a little bit more about this later, but I'll talk about how we have worked to create a warranty product for one of our clients because they were facing a way that they wanted to be able to track a large number of warranties and be able to be in tune with real-time data. And really the commonality with all of these types of clients is you're dealing with large amounts of data and need some sort of way to be on top of it and track it well so that you can be well organized. So I thought that I'd start us off with a bit of a client example to just paint even more of a picture. So one of our clients came to us and I'll talk through the situation that they were faced with. Just to give you the case background, they were being sued by hundreds of plaintiffs every single year over a long period of time. And they had several different challenges that they were facing. They had another entity that was managing their data, but there were several issues. One of the first issues was the organization of files and documents. And they just had really their information in several different modalities. They had their information in Excel spreadsheets. They had them in Access databases. They also had file storage rooms where they had walls and walls of bookcases where cases had an entire file dedicated to them or several files. And then there was also just information that was not documented, that was just known by the team that was managing the data, which itself is a large risk. And then another challenging point for our client was the accessibility of information. And so really at that point, the only people that could access the data was the team that managed the data. And so anytime data was needed, whether it was a case report or statistics reports, status communications, documents that needed to be sent back and forth for settlement purposes, they were transmitted either by email or sometimes even via CD and physically mailed, which is not only does it take a long time, but it's also a security risk. And then they also needed to have National Coordinating Council, local defense counsel, different corporate contacts, people essentially all over the country who needed to access this data. But anytime they needed to access it, it was only accessible by that one team that managed the data. So everything really had to go through them. And so that was another challenge. To add another challenge on top of it, since all of that data, like I mentioned, was locally stored and only that team could have access of the data, it really posed quite a security risk because I'll give you one specific example. There was a point in time for this client where there was really bad weather in the area where that team managing the data was located. And it was so bad that it was likely to devastate the area. And what they ended up having to do was take the servers, unplug everything, throw it in the back of a car, and drive it literally to a safe location. And they kept the data there, where in that safe location until the area where they were was safe enough to go back to. But they ended up having, I think it was 2 weeks of downtime where they just couldn't, the client, the counsel really was not able to even get to the information because it all had to be, unhooked and driven to a place that it was safe. So it was an extremely challenging situation for the client. And, after all of those things combined, they reached out to us for solutions. And, we were able to outline many different ways that we'd be able to help them. And just to remind you again, this is a client that was being sued frequently and had a high number of filings over a long period of time. So there was a lot to do. There was a significant amount of time of case information and data that they wanted to have easily accessible, because they were going from something that was not a great system and they wanted to have more clarity. So one of the first things that we did when we approached this client was we spoke with them about how step one for us is really organizing all of the files and documents and information that they have. So like I said, they had an Access database, Excels, hard copy files, information that was just known by the team. And we needed to take all of that information, organize it, standardize it, and migrate it into one consistent structure. And so that was incredibly important. And it's challenging because, over time, the data was being stored in different ways because, perhaps they started out with some of the information in the case files, handwritten out, and then they migrated it over to Excels and then perhaps into the Access database. So it really took a lot of understanding how the client had their data stored over time to make sure that we were bringing it over properly. And then we also had to tackle the point of, there was information that was just being stored in with the team, just inherently known by the team that was managing their data. So we spent time working with them to understand what they knew and make sure that we were putting in place well-documented procedures. And then we also added brand new procedures in addition, because one of the things that KCIC does is whenever a complaint comes in for our clients, we process that complaint. So we review the complaint and we take all of the initial information from the complaint and we put it into our system. And that way the client already has an initial set of data available to them, really a foundational starting point. So, we established that client in our system so that the complaint process would exist for them. And that was incredibly helpful because it was something they hadn't really had the ability to see the data that quickly after the case had been served to them. And then we also revamped existing processes to streamline them. So we went through, the old process and looked at, okay, this is all of the processes that are being done based off of the prior data management entity. And what can we make more efficient so that we are essentially reducing the amount of time spent, whether it's, receiving redundant emails or having people generate manual emails. And so we went through and designed certain processes, such as, for example, if a jurisdiction were to be served 4 different complaints, rather than like the prior data management entity would do, they would send manual complaints to them, that we would just have an automatic summary email that would go out on a daily basis or however frequently they received complaints, that had all 4 complaints in there and a link that would take them to the information. And then we were also able to create automatic emails that would go to the client or the National Coordinating Council, whoever needed the information, to be able to see summaries. And so that was all extremely useful to them. And then as another layer, we also created a portal access for our client on our proprietary platform, Ligado, where the parties were able to access their information. So no longer was the information just held by one party. It was accessible by National Coordinating Council, local defense counsel, different corporate contacts. Anyone who needed to be able to see it could log in, see the case information, and also be able to run real-time reports so that they could see, how many filings have we received this month at this point of time? How many, filings have we received by plaintiff counsel? They would be able to do some basic analytics just on their own in the system.
This is
And
fascinating to me, Catherine. So tell me, how closely did you have to work with the attorneys to develop some of these features? I mean, how long has KCIC been around, and how what did it look like in the early days when you were trying to figure out what should this software really look like?
right. Well, it's definitely been an evolution. And that's one of the things that I truly love about working with our clients at KCIC. There's not one way to do something, in perpetuity. We are always constantly evaluating the best way to go about handling certain processes. So, I mean, we have had several iterations of our platform, Ligado. We're working on another phase of it actually right now, a 3.0. And it's very exciting because we do spend a lot of time talking with our clients, just making sure that we understand what their needs are so that we can really fine tune the platform to act in a way that makes the most sense for them. So it's certainly an evolution. We're constantly changing the way the functionality works and trying to fine tune it to make sure that it is working well, and also addressing perhaps new needs. We're noticing that there's more of a need for the ability to store documents, perhaps not on the claimant level. So we have the ability now to have kind of a general documents area where clients are able to just have different kinds of discovery information that perhaps is more universal to the client as a whole rather than case by case.
Awesome. And what challenges do you face whenever you're introducing, attorneys to your platform that have no familiarity with it?
I mean, I think that one of the aspects is just anytime you're exposed to a new system, you have to learn how it works. Now, I have to say, I do think that our platform is very user friendly. I don't know, if you all are thinking about data, maybe you're thinking perhaps about dry spreadsheets and just an interface that's maybe not that exciting. We've made it colorful and just something that you want to engage with, and I think that's something that's incredibly important. I mean, that being said, there is a training time where, when we bring on someone who's completely brand new to the platform, we have processes in place where we'll do general trainings and we have user manuals and things like that. But, I have heard from many attorneys and paralegals that it's actually quite intuitive. And that's really a true compliment.
Yeah, that's good, because I know a lot of attorneys are a little hesitant about adopting new technologies. So it has to be user friendly. It has to be easy to use for a lot of
Right.
people to jump on board.
Absolutely.
So, but yeah, can you tell us a little bit more? Or I think you were planning to show us some of the platform today, right?
I am planning to a little bit later. I have a few topics that I still want to touch on. I have a few examples that I wanted to share with the group in terms of how, once we do bring a client on board, I think it's incredibly important that, that phase is incredibly important. But then there's also the next phase where we're continuing to work with our client as trusted advisors. We're really stewards of their data, and we've gone through and worked to organize it and help understand how it works. So we're able to help in a bunch of different situations. So one of them is strategic decision making, where our clients look to us for analysis to help them make decisions. So I wanted to share an example on that with everyone. One of our clients had come to us because they wanted to evaluate whether or not to sell their company entirely, or if they wanted to hold on to their legal liabilities. And so what we ended up doing was we worked with them to prepare a forecast that would show how much their liabilities would cost out to 15 years or so. And that way they could consider the different, sale prices and determine what made the most sense. So that's one of the examples that I really wanted to share with everyone, because I think it's such a great way to connect the dots between, how can you use data to make, decisions with more certainty. And especially when you can use the data to quantify different results. I think that's the perfect melding point between, data and law here, because there's just so much that can be done with the data if it's stored properly. And then the other example I wanted to give was just looking back at some experiences that we've had working with clients that are in trial, we have been asked to testify at trial given some of the familiarity that we have with our clients' data. So some of our clients, for example, have been entangled in disputes about how much has been allocated to their insurance policies or how the policies exhaust. And given just our experience with the data, we've been able to testify on the allocation methodology. And that's been something that has really made a big difference for our clients. So, I think there are really two takeaways from all of this, from what we do with our clients. It's really the organization of your data helps you make decisions with better clarity and confidence. But then also just being organized by nature of it really just allows you to spend time on what's really important, right? You're not spending time writing emails that could be automatically sent off, by the system. You're not spending time searching for information that you need because you know how to easily get it at your fingertips. And that's really what we've tried to do. And I think that's one of the things that really is so important for the future of the legal field, where there's so much information that is involved, whether it's through the discovery process or understanding corporate history of companies. But you really have the ability, if you are organized with your information, to be more strategic with your decisions and how you handle litigation. So I did want to take a step back though and talk a little bit about how we got to this point of messy data, because I think it's one thing to talk about the process of what we do with our clients, but sometimes I think it helps have a little bit more context and put things into perspective. So I was thinking over the past week about all the advances in technology that we've had and how it's really not that long ago that we lived without these technological advances. And to be honest, all I have to do is think about this device, our cell phones, and if I open my junk drawer and just look at the collection of phones, I mean, I'm just, when you're looking back, if I look at last year's edition of my phone, it's bigger and can't hold as much memory. And if I look back the year prior, again, it's, even bigger and can't hold as much memory. And then if I think about laptops and computers, I mean, my old laptops feel like giant bricks and were horrible to carry around. And now we have these amazing lightweight devices. And looking back even further, quite frankly, there were times where you couldn't even bring your computer home because it was hooked up in a desktop computer. So you couldn't, transport it back home. Your work kind of was left at the office. So really, these have been such groundbreaking times where every single year technology has gotten faster and smarter and it can hold more data. But you really have to think back to the 1980s because that's when internet and the computers began to scale for global consumer and business use and at that time. And it's hard to think that it's been 4 decades ago, but I was talking with my boss and he was saying how, it was just so amazing using the one of the earlier spreadsheet programs called Lotus 123. And he was saying, you plugged in the first number and you plugged in the second number and the third number. And then at the bottom, you could plug in a auto sum and all of a sudden it calculated this number. It was the most revolutionary thing at that time. And if you think of, another older processing application like WordPerfect, it's interesting because when you think about law, at that time, some of our clients they had started being sued in that time. So records existed that way. Notes were handwritten. Case files were, physical case documents, and nothing's on, you didn't have things online. And the reason the data is such a mess, going back to the point I'm trying to make here, the reason the data is such a mess is really a difference in companies. I mean, if you think about a company like Facebook that started during the tech era, they're really a giant database. They have all of their data stored uniformly. Every box you click, every action captures data. It's properly organized in the database. And it gives them the ability to have all of these powerful analytics. They know what you like, what, you know, who your employer is, where your location is based off of where you've checked in. And all of that, you know, since everything's all organized, they really have the ability to use artificial intelligence and make informed decisions. So for example, with advertising, they can see what you've liked and they can use that to determine what kinds of ads you should be seeing using AI. But Facebook is a big corporation and they've worked and operated within their environment through this period of time. So really, you know, while I'm sure they've had evolutions over the years, everything really started in a database. And when you think back to corporations and going back to law, many of the companies that we work with, they have information from such a wide range of time. I mean, some of my clients have been around since, you know, the 1940s, 1950s, certainly no Excel spreadsheets then. And so, you know, they have a variety of different ways that they have been storing their data. They, you know, like the client example I said, you know, things were hard copies and Excels and different sorts of database types, but it's just not stored in a uniform way. So when you think about how it's, you know, law and litigation has changed over time, if you think about, you know, even just the discovery process, I feel like, you know, what I think of when I consider the discovery process in the worst case scenario is probably a scene out of Dark Waters, if anyone's seen that movie, where all of a sudden, you know, there's a production of documents and there's just a gigantic room with boxes and boxes and boxes of documents. But we've had so many advancements these days that like productions are in PDFs and your goal is to, you know, try and do OCR, optical character recognition, as fast as humanly possible so you can actually sift through the documents. And so, you know, for litigation, there's just this really is a new frontier. Technology has been disruptive, but can be very beneficial. I mean, there's a lot of data and there's a way to use all of these technological advances to your advantage. But really the key is, how do you get through your data quickly and efficiently? And at the end of the day, it all starts with really maintaining your data properly. So with that in mind, I kind of wanted to pause here. I've been talking a lot and I wanted to ask a question of you all. And I wanted to see, you know, from your all's perspective, what sources of data are you interacting with on a regular basis? And it might be professionally, it could be personally. I was chatting with a colleague of mine about an example I have of, you know, we have recipes that we've collected in our family for years and years, and those are in a special recipe book. But then I also have recipes that have been emailed to me. And then I have a Pinterest board that has all the recipes of my heart's desire, and everything's in different places. But they're all, you know, things that whenever I go to look for a recipe, they're not exactly stored in the best way because they're all over the place. And I think that's a great example for how this, you know, data has changed over time too, because you know, the recipes for my family are really old, and then the Pinterest ones are quite recent. So I was curious from the group here, what sources of data do you all feel like you interact with regularly?
For me, I deal with all sorts of different types of data. I deal with the data for our mentoring program. So the attorneys that join, the students that join, and all of their information that they put into our platform. I also deal with all the LinkedIn connections that I make and trying to keep up with all of them, and emails and all sorts of business information that I have to maintain for my own business. There's a lot. I get exposed to all sorts of different data. Right.
Yeah. For me, the most troublesome data information is my passwords. I also often need to reset my password because I often forget them. And I also need to maintain my contact information. I need to contact my some attorneys regularly. So I need to keep the information in the worksheet and update the information regularly.
Mm-hmm.
I do it for jobs, applying to jobs and keeping track of job applications.
Right, yeah, that's a great example too, because there's a lot of things that you can keep track of, you know, when you applied, what certain things you have to do for the application process, where the companies are, what types of companies are you dealing with?
Similar to Aisha, I keep track of, when I was applying to law school, kept track of my LSAT scores and just the trends of that. And then also the law school applications when I sent them out, when I heard back from them. So just naturally trying to keep organized with the process.
Yeah, that's great. That's another really excellent example of maintaining data. And it, like you all can see, it's not necessarily always, data that is connected to your career or your professional life. It can really be all over the place. There's so many places that we're interacting with data. Was there anyone else who wanted to share? All right, well, I think, Angie, we can probably move on to the dashboards at this point, because I'd really love to be able to show you guys a little bit of some of the things that we've created once we do have data organized in a good way. So I'm just going to go over to the screen over here, and I'll share my screen in just a moment.
Yeah, sometimes it helps just to visualize what it all looks like.
Yeah,
I think it's hard to talk about technology kind of in the abstract, so it's good to see real world examples. I was always surprised, how much new technology you have to adopt when you get into a law firm. My gosh, every time you start a new employer, you have to learn their document management systems, their docketing systems, their timekeeping systems. I mean, there's so many new pieces of technology that you have to learn. So this is fantastic.
Right. So what you all are looking at here is one of our dashboards that we pulled together. I'm going to walk through 3 examples, and then at the end we can talk through some questions. But I'm not sure what everyone was, anticipating when we were going to talk about data and dashboards. So hopefully, I think these are really interactive and they look, really great. They're aesthetically pleasing. You enjoy looking at them with all the colors. And you also can find, they're extremely helpful. So this one dashboard here is a filings dashboard. So for example, one of our clients may want one of these so they can see how many cases they're receiving year over year, and some different slices of that data so that they can start to dig a little bit deeper into what the trends are. So I'm just going to point out a couple of different charts here. So first, I'm going to show you all this filings by year and disease. So what this is showing us here is it's showing a sense of, for every single year, how many cases are coming in for this given client. So you have, 2015, 2016, 2017, and so on. And you can see that, there's over 1,000 cases in 2015, but then you're also able to really interact with it. And you can see as I hover over, I can't really see what the red is here, but I can see that there were 55 filings that had an unknown disease. And you can just scroll through and interact with this and really have a good handle of what is the state of litigation for my client as of this point of time. Because one thing I think that's really important to share about these dashboards is that they interact in real time. I mean, they're pulling the data in real time. So if I look down here to show you the interactive part, this chart here is a filings by state chart. And so if I click on this, state of Illinois, it'll actually limit all of the rest of the charts, and that one including, to just show us the filings for Illinois. And it really makes it something where you can come in here and have the ability to dig into the data deeper, like I said, and understand, where are you seeing more plaintiff counsels file in Illinois? And, which states do you feel like need more attention from national coordinating counsel, things like that. And I feel like, having this accessible to our clients has been something that's been really helpful for them, because they're able to just see all of these analytics that they, if they had all of their data in hard copy case files or in an Access database that only, a certain team can access, you don't have the ability to see this. And this is something that can be seen by the client, by all the different attorneys. And it's really helpful for them.
Now, is it usually your clients are like the in-house counsels that are managing these, or is it the outside counsel?
So we actually work with both inside counsel, in-house counsel, and then local counsels as well. And then the client also is involved, to be honest. So it is more of a partnership with so many different parties, because the client may want to see something that perhaps National Courting Council may not be as interested in. So we really work together with everyone to make sure that we're bringing as many different interesting data points together so that we're, providing the information that's really going to help them manage all the different cases.
But who's typically your main client? Like would all these other people get access to this information through one main client that's contracting with you?
So typically it's the actual company that will contract us.
Okay.
And then we'll work with the different, we'll work with their counsel network to help make sure that we have all the context we need, because the context is really important. We can pull together a bunch of different charts, but they don't mean anything if, they're not useful to people.
Yeah, so if you have like a large multinational company like AT&T or, an insurance company or somebody like that, that would be your usual main client, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's typically the way it works. There's, exceptions to every rule, but
yeah, no, it's interesting because I'm curious as to like who would initially implement all of this, and then how would their outside counsel get access to all this?
Right. Yeah, specifically for these dashboards, this concept, this service that we do, it's typically the company. We do have some other things that we do with clients where we're working directly, just one-offs with the law firms as well. But that's a very good question. So I'll show you guys this next report, this triage report, as it's loading here. So this is a report which, in our mind, it's something that's further down the line of if you are just starting to get organized with your data, this is something that really helps you evaluate cases as they come in and triage them so that you have some advanced information, once a case comes through the door, which cases really need your attention as soon as possible. So I'm going to point out this bottom chart here right now. And so what this is showing is all of the pending cases. And then there's this score on the right-hand side. And you can see it's, a gradient from, this 11.52, which is a deeper red than these lighter colored red boxes here. And what's happening is we work with our clients, we partner with them to help understand, when a case comes in the door, what attributes of it are red flags, what are the attributes of the case that really make you think that you need to evaluate it and have it worked up and perhaps elevated to the highest levels as soon as possible. And so, as you're going through this chart here, you can see that we have high level information for the claimants, and some of the different aspects that come up are we have, we work with our client to come up with a scoring system so that if perhaps the Thornton law firm is a plaintiff counsel that you want to make sure once a case comes in there, you want to make sure you're reviewing the case as soon as possible, we will assign that a certain value, a certain score. And perhaps again, with jurisdiction, there might be certain jurisdictions that are, more case where cases, if a case were to come out of there would be a, more attention put towards that case. Same thing with something like the number of defendants. This is looking more towards the realm of asbestos litigation, where you usually have hundreds of defendants on the lawsuit. But when you have fewer than 10, it's really rare, and usually signifies as a case that would be more high value. So those are the kinds of things that would be flagged here. And so what happens is once, there are cases that come back and have these high scores, there's an automatic email that will go out to the client, and they will be able to know that they need to look at this case right away. So this kind of triaging report is something that is really helpful to just make sure you're getting advanced information. It's not, it's not really automatic. It's really not AI. but it is a way to sift through the data in a mechanical fashion per se, to identify what you need to look at as quickly as possible. And then one more dashboard that I wanted to show you all is this warranty overview. So I said in the beginning that I was going to touch just a little bit on this. You know, some of our clients that have approached us have reached out because they have complex data problems and they're looking to us to provide them with a solution, even though it's maybe not litigation related. So for example, here, there are companies that will issue warranties and they will want to keep an eye out on, well, if we're issuing a warranty, how many people actually file a claim, how many warranties are active. They'll want to know certain statistics like that. So I'll just point out this chart down here. First off, show the warranty statistics by product. And you can see we're able to, you know, break down the warranty information by the specific product here. And so we have, you know, for example, toasters had 105 warranties issued, and all of them are active at this point. And the revenue from that is, you know, a little over $1,000 and so on. And the helpful aspect about this dashboard is oftentimes for warranties, there's a certain pipeline that a claim will go through, or warranties will also go through, where if a warranty is issued, the company will want to keep track of how many warranties have been issued, the revenue raised from them. But then also if a claim is reached, they'll want to have a set process in place for what's going to happen when the claim comes in. How do we evaluate whether it's a claim that needs to be addressed or, you know, resolved? And what stages, what sort of qualifying information do we want to have provided so that it can get down the pipeline to the point that we send someone out to fix it, for example. So I think this is another really great use of the platform and how we're able to keep track of this organized data and use it in a way that's perhaps not litigation related. So I wanted to pause again here and just see from the group what pops out to you all with these dashboards. Is there anything, do you all have any questions about them? Is there anything that you all were really fascinated by that we wanted to discuss? All right. Well, we can move on then. If no one has any questions, I'll stop sharing my screen. All right.
Yeah, I'd love to go ahead and turn it over to Q&A if you don't mind, Kathryn.
Yeah, definitely. Why don't we go ahead and do that? I had a last comment, but I'll save that till after the questions.
Oh, sure, that's fine. Well, it'll give people some time to think about their questions a little more. So go ahead.
All right, that sounds good. Well, I just wanted to say, you know, thank you, Angie, for, you know, facilitating this this experience today. I think it's just so great for everyone to, well, not only, you know, you have your mentoring program, which I think is such a great way of introducing people to others in the legal field and connecting them. It's really phenomenal for networking too. And I just wanted to say kudos to everyone for joining and just learning about different aspects of law that will, you know, only be beneficial to you. So I just want to leave you all with a little nugget of wisdom about mentors. I myself have been blessed with several mentors, and I certainly would not be where I am today without them. It's even inspired me to be a mentor for other people. So my tip is definitely stay in touch with your mentors. If you haven't spoken to them in a month or so, I encourage you to reach out to them. People are busy, but, you know, as a mentor, I really want to be a resource. I want to help people. And, you know, all mentors really, that's what we want to do. We want to help you elevate your brand and help you in your career. I know Angie through her platform has a notification system that helps you all keep track of that. But if you have any mentors that are, you know, off of that platform and you haven't spoken with them in a month or so, or if you've emailed them and not heard back, email them again. We get busy. Everyone gets busy. So just don't be deterred. I think with that, that's all I have. Thank you so much, Angie.
Yeah, does anybody have any questions for Kathrin? In the meantime, I have some questions for you.
Sure.
So yeah, I mean, I think that was great advice about reaching out to your mentors again. Do you have any like tech tips or tech tools that you use to keep track of your mentors, and what is your advice on how to continue maintaining those relationships?
Well, to be quite honest, your platform sounds phenomenal for keeping track of mentors. I kind of have a system of that's sort of a mixed system. I mean, sometimes if I think about wanting to check in with my mentor but don't have the time that moment, I'll block it off on my calendar. To be honest, that's one of the most useful things, actually putting time on your calendar, blocking it off so that you make the time to do that. Because otherwise, I feel like if you just have it on a list somewhere and you have 10,000 things to do that day, it just ends up becoming difficult to fit it in somewhere. But spending that time to block time off really does help.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I also, as you're connecting with people, once you are done with that interaction, once you have that meeting, you could always just calendar another reminder in about a month or so, or even a couple weeks or so, just to try to get another meeting together again. I don't think you need any really sophisticated tech tools to help manage your relationships. Some people do use their own personal CRMs. So I've heard of people using things like Notion or Airtable, and do whatever you have to do, but it can be just as simple as using the calendar invites on your phone and blocking off that time like Kathrin says, or sending yourself email reminders that will ping you to follow up with people, because I think that stuff is so important. It's really hard once you get busy into the swing of things, especially if you're a student. It ebbs and flows. You're going to go through periods where there's nothing to do, and then all of a sudden, exams come around, and then you have way too much on your plate. And so try to use technology to lessen your load a little bit as much as you can, right?
Exactly.
So does anybody have questions for Kathrin? Feel free to just jump on camera. We have about 5 minutes left, so feel free to ask away. So Kathrin, so did you ever consider being a lawyer?
I did consider it a little bit, but I really felt like the balance between technology and law was what really suited me best. And I think that having an interest in law and being in this field only helps elevate my ability to help my clients. So it's really worked out very well, I think. But it's interesting you asked that. I did have a thought about that as an undergraduate student, but just sometimes I feel like you think your life is going to go on a linear path, and then you have some speed bumps along the way that actually help you out.
Yeah, what sort of characteristics or personality traits do you think you need to be successful in a role like yours?
First one that comes to mind is detail oriented. And second would probably be an investigative or problem solving mindset. And I'd probably say those two are the most important, because it's not the work that we do. It's not binary. There's a lot of thought that goes into how we end up working with a client to help them get to a level up of how their data is being stored so that we can really set them up properly for the future. And so having those two skill sets really, I think, make you more successful in this field.
And do you think that you could go into that field with an undergraduate bachelor's degree, or do you think that it would require grad school? Like, what is the typical education requirements for somebody in your role?
Yeah, so I mean, straight out of undergrad is, many of my colleagues came to KCIC straight out of undergrad, and there are a variety of different majors. I mean, like I said, I was a public health studies major. There's a way that I find the overlaps and, nuances between what I learned there and can connect them to KCIC. But I think, it really does boil down to that investigative mindset, problem solving, and also detail oriented, which can overlap so many different majors, so many different backgrounds. So there's not really a limitation there, which I think opens the door to a lot of different opportunities.
And do you know if they have any sort of internship program?
Yeah, so we do have internship programs over the summertime. So we'll be, open for next summer. looking. It's usually about a 2-month program through June to beginning of August. And then for our regular consulting positions, we usually hire in the spring for a fall start date.
Awesome. Yeah, the students are always interested in those things. They always want to know, is there a way that I can actually get real meaningful work experience? But I think this might be a great, role that would allow you to interact with a lot of lawyers, get to know more about the law aspects of it, but also much more about the business side and the technology aspects of the practice. So I think that
Right.
this would be a perfect opportunity for any pre-law student that's, still kind of on the fence about what sort of career path they're thinking about choosing, and they want exposure to all those different things. It would be a great role.
Yeah, and if anyone has any questions, definitely reach out to me. I added my LinkedIn in the chat thread. And so just feel free to reach out and let me know if you're interested in talking more.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate you spending the time to be here with us today and share your story and share all this great information about your technology platform. And thank you everyone for spending time with us today. I'm so glad to see all of you again after the new year, and I hope you guys are starting off your year well. Please stay happy and safe and healthy. And we'll be back again on Thursday with another meetup with Renwei Chung. He's actually a writer for Above the Law, and he's also an in-house legal counsel. And he's going to share a whole bunch of information with you guys about diversity and how basically you can use your social capital to be able to build your professional networks. So come join us again on Thursday. And we also have a virtual happy hour on Friday for all legal professionals. This is current law students, pre-law students, and lawyers, paralegals, anybody in the legal profession can join. And you can come and interact with other professionals in the field. And we split you up into breakout rooms, so you actually get one-on-one time where you can speak to people. It's really, really fun. So please come join us for the rest of our events this week. And I'm looking forward to seeing all of you. So bye.